Tolerance and diversity will have been mentioned a lot by the close of this holiday weekend. And before the glow of Canada Day wears off, we want to take you to a street in Toronto where those two ideals have been welcomed, gradually. A home for refugees was opened on Wanda Road 10 years ago. There goes the neighborhood was the reaction of some. That attitude faded as people realized that the neighborhood was about to change, but for the better. Joan Leishman has this documentary report.
For the past 51 years, Mrs. Mackay has watched the comings and goings on Wanda Road. First, it was blue-collar workers who lived on her street in Toronto's West End. Lately, professional couples have been moving in, renovating their houses and manicuring their lawns. Most appealing is that Wanda Road has always been a quiet residential street. Well, it was until Mary Jo Letty moved in. Everyone has come to accept that Mary Jo loves to party, and that's not all they've had to get used to. Mary Jo is the director of Romero House, a settlement house for refugees.
When we first got this house, it's like we didn't even think about the neighbors. We were just preoccupied with getting the right house with the right combination of rooms.
What we were afraid of course, the older ones anyway, they're taking over. And we didn't want our little street taken over.
Tony Rebello lives 3 doors from Romero House. He says that at the time, some of the neighbors went around whipping up fear.
They just don't want the street to turn into a big refugee center, and that the value of the property goes down, or they, you know, they always think if one comes, then they all come to the same place, and I think that's what they're afraid of.
The trigger was this garage. Mary Jo wanted to make it bigger, use it as a craft center and play area, but there were rumors that she was adding more living space. That didn't sit well with the neighbors, who were already worried that the value of their homes would fall.
It wasn't just 1 or 2, it was a lot of people, and they all went down to City Hall. I wasn't there, I was away at the time, but the chairman of our board was there, and he said it was so ugly. It was like people said there would be rapists and drug dealing and prostitution and orgies, and you know, it was just so out of whack. I just assumed they accepted us. Well, some didn't. But I also know that it was just, I just thought of the street as like a backdrop. And then at some point, though, there was like an inner, I realized, no, we're living with these people. We're in this together on this street, and we'll make it together or we won't.
When Nelson arrived at Romero House, he thought he had made it. Here, he's safe, but still haunted. In his country of Angola, he was tortured repeatedly. His mother and father, along with 9 brothers and sisters, all disappeared in that country's savage civil war. The Angola Nelson fled has been at war for 3 decades. It's one of the most dangerous places on earth. It holds 3 million landmines, countless victims. Many of its cities are reduced to squalid camps, its people thrown back into the Dark Ages. When Nelson escaped, at first there was the rush of freedom. Then he had to confront a harsh realization common to most refugees.
I was crying. I was crying just because I was thinking about Angola, about my country. And I said, oh, maybe I never come back to Angola. What's going to happen now?
I think most people, when they first arrive, they've been like a bug on the water, just surviving. And when they get to Canada, it's like, oh, we've made it. We're here. It's over. And it's not. It's just beginning.
The first years was very hard because everything was new country, new language. We didn't have any fun.
Georgia Heliner was the first neighbor on Wanda Road to get involved with the refugees. She had lived in Africa and didn't share the fears of unfamiliar faces or those who'd come here from strange, chaotic countries without being asked.
Which one do you like? If I could, I should make all of them.
Georgia next door, our neighbor, she appreciates the fact that the refugees are coming over in Ken. So she spread that around in her own quiet way, and it was good, really good. Her ideas and attitude followed in with Mary Jo. So that helped the street and helped all of us realize about the refugees. And she would talk about them as if they were, you know, somebody that meant so much to her. And these things change a person.
Things have been gradually changing all along the street. Tony and other residents have given some of the refugees their first jobs. Under the law, they're allowed to work while learning English and waiting to be formally accepted as a refugee.
Mary Jo is a very good salesperson. So she comes over, she says, oh, I have a great guy, he knows how to do this and he knows how to do that. So when I have that type of work, I try them out, and most of the time works out good. I try to be just with them. I pay what I would pay somebody else. But if I need to work on a Saturday, they come and work on Saturday. So it works for me. So.
For Nelson, it's a chance to make some money. Beyond that, it's a chance just to be normal, not always seen as a victim, but as a regular guy eager to fit in.
Hey, Tony. Yesterday we were talking about Pierre Trudeau, yeah, and we were talking about his son. The most important is that he's very friendly, Tony. We are very friendly. We work, we laugh, and yeah, we eat together, yeah.
Looking forward to the party tomorrow?
Oh, yes. It's going to be quite a do.
There have been lots of parties at Romero House since it opened 10 years ago. Celebrations for the arrival of a new refugee or someone finally securing their Canadian papers.
Oh, that's just so great.
But this one's special. It's not only for Romero House, it's for the entire block. They'll celebrate one couple's 20th anniversary, welcome another who's just moved in, and the queen of it all will be Mrs. Mackay, who's about to turn 95.
Oh, they got me a dress. Grace and Tony, they got me a dress. It'll be okay. It doesn't look like me.
Okay, take it down the street.
Tony's in charge of decorations for the party, and he's doing it big. And to help him out, almost everyone on the street has taken the day off work. As on most city streets, not long ago, people on Wanda Road barely knew each other. Then they were quietly drawn in by Mary Jo. At first, it was for small favors, helping to translate or write a resume. Fiona Reed says that over the years, the result was a slow, strong fusion with the refugees and each other.
It's made it a neighborhood. I think this Romero House defines our neighborhood. I think it makes us reach out to each other in ways that we might not. It's fascinating because you see the assumptions that we all make, that I have made in the past, that when you read the paper and you think, oh, you know, is every case a genuine case? And then you meet people like the residents of Romero House, and one realizes, well, it puts a human element and what they've been through.
What some have been through is the carnage we see on the news. driven from their homes by hatred and wars few of us care to understand. People a world away persecuted for their religious beliefs, murdered because of their ethnic background or political loyalties. They live in fear, stripped of their belongings and identities in conflicts they may have nothing to do with. Once in Canada, they're on their own to find shelter, someone to help them through the courts, and make their way in a country which often seems not to really want them.
Taxpayers pay money to hire people to look after them, and in the process, them, whoever they are, lose their faces and their names, and we no longer think of them as our neighbors. We just think of them as an issue, as a cause, a concern. You know, even if we're very socially conscious, as long as they don't have a face or name, ultimately people don't care. They don't. I mean, they can do it they can pay their money out of guilt or whatever, but it's not out of a real desire to just help another human being. That as long as refugees are out in a shelter somewhere where only a staff meets them, the refugees don't get the confidence that they could become part of the normal life of the country. And also, people never meet them, and so they can live with all these stereotypes and never have them adjusted by reality. The minute refugees have a face and a name, something human happens, and people invariably respond with decency and tolerance and generosity.
It's the kind of life lesson that we all need, and we're just lucky enough to live with it and live across it. I always tell people that living opposite Romero House is the best thing about our neighborhood.
The neighbors don't know the whole story they just don't know, but they get little glimpses of the suffering of people, and they just think, wow, that's a lot.
Even a glimpse can be overwhelming. In fact, Nelson and the two cousins he has in Canada almost never talk about their past. Neusa is also from Angola. Her smile masks the depths of her pain. She witnessed rebel soldiers murder her grandparents, rape her mother, shoot her father. She thought all of her brothers and sisters had been killed too. But her little brother Nunu managed to survive. He spent 5 years in a refugee camp. Only 2 weeks ago, his sister discovered that he was alive when Nunu made it out to Canada.
I looked at Nunu. Nelson said, "Oh, Nelson, it's your brother." I said, "No, not my brother."
Nelson said, "No, it's not him. My brother is a little boy." I said, "Nelson, okay. 5 years. 5 years. He grew up." Yeah, and we start crying. And it's so nice to have them around, because sometimes I feel like I'm the only one in the world. And when I think I have Nunu and Nelsa, everything changed. I really care about them. Yeah, something to live for.
What I want to do is just explain a little bit about the refugee process that you're going to have to go through.
Nunu's next step is to claim refugee status. If he's accepted, he can then apply to become a landed immigrant. Making his case to stay will mean reliving the past he's fighting hard to forget.
It can be hard to remember. I know, like you smile all the time, but sometimes inside you are crying. Yeah, that's like your sister too. Sometimes inside you're crying inside.
In the meantime, Nunu can go to school and try to get on with life. Mary Jo will take care of business and work with his lawyer, just as she does for all her other charges.
I'm called your designated rep. You can call me that. Designated rep.
The average waiting time for a hearing is currently 1 year.
And what do you think this is going to do?
This is not floor.
Oh,
This is not floor.
that's too bad. It's really flourishing.
No. Oh, it's not.
Waiting is the hardest part. Waiting for a hearing. Waiting to be granted landed immigrant status. In some cases, it can take up to 10 years. Like Barbara, many refugees aren't able to practice their professions here, so the days are long and lonely.
I just like to work with flowers because I am a horticulturist. But now I have to clean, to cook, take some just little care of the small yard. But really, I miss my job. It's broken. I just wanted to give to you because you are such a nice friend to me.
I'm so glad you didn't move far away.
I'm not gonna move.
When we come back,
Unless you see it, you wouldn't believe it.
as the party gets going, a multicultural feast is prepared. Everyone has brought a little, and it turns out to be more than enough. And in many ways, that's what this street has come to be all about, putting disparate pieces together to make a whole.
We're on TV. No, we're not. Yes, we are.
It's just kind of magic, I think. It's like the street becomes one big living room that we all share.
Unless you see it, you wouldn't believe it.
People from blocks away are drawn to the party. So are many who once lived at Romero House. Since it opened, 150 refugees started their lives in Canada here, and most don't want to miss an opportunity to return. As usual, Mary Jo's not afraid to put herself on the front lines.
Anyway, without further ado, Mary Jo Letty and the Willoughby Blues.
She's written a song for the occasion, kept it secret by practicing in the park. Such a display may seem unusual for a woman who's also a Roman Catholic nun, but she says quite the contrary. Living with people who have so much pain, you grab every joyous moment that comes by.
I don't know nothing about music. I got an awful voice, but baby, I got soul. And I got my buddy Marty.
You look pretty nice today.
Do you think so?
Yes, I mean it.
What began as not in my backyard has plunged full force onto the street, and there's no sign of it going away. Nelson watches it all, holding the young son of a friend. Even on a day like this, his demons and his immense loneliness aren't far away. Nelson is desperate to find out what has become of his own family and is working with the International Red Cross in Angola to search for them, hoping, praying someone may still be alive. In the meantime, neighbors reach out, trying to somehow ease his pain.
I think we can say yes, to love your neighbor as yourself has a lot of implications.
Wanda Road has a very different complexion now, and it's definitely noisier than before. Its residents have changed too. a transformation more dramatic than anyone could have predicted. What's going on here is much more than a party. It's a tribute to a million acts of kindness that take place all year long. A thank you to the refugees who carry groceries or shovel snow for their neighbors, and to the residents on the street who've gradually opened their hearts and their homes.
We don't quite know why or how, but we've done something good together, something that none of us separately could quite manage. And we're sort of proud. We're proud of it. We think we're good Canadians, you know?
Thank you. Thank you, Canada, for putting us together. We love you. Wanda Road. Thank you very much. See you next year.
For The National, I'm Joan Leishman.
Please stay with us. We'll be back in a moment with this story.
Cricket essentially was the sport which was played predominantly in British colonies. We are now moving beyond that.
It used to be Canada's national sport. Can cricket make a comeback?